What if, in the time it takes you to blink, Earth swapped its oceans and continents? You're on the 52nd floor in Manhattan, coffee warming your palms, when the view turns into a wall of water. It isn't a surge, it's a replacement. Streets, subways, and skylines become a newborn sea, piling pressure on your body faster than you can gasp. 10 meters, 50, 100. Each slice of depth adds another atmosphere. Your lungs, sinuses, and the tiny air in your ears protest, then fail. It's not drowning that finds you first, it's the crush. Cut. Now you're you again, but on a cargo ship in the mid-Pacific under a clean, starry sky. The ocean simply isn't there. The ship free falls through salt mist and darkness, slamming onto a glistening plain of seafloor mud that suddenly land. You stagger up into air as thin as a mountaintop. Your thoughts fog. Your chest claws for oxygen that won't arrive. Radios die. Horizons look wrong. Containers lie like broken teeth. Across the planet, trenches become plateaus, cities become archipelagos, climate, winds, and currents lose their script. This isn't a flood, a quake, or a storm. It's a planetary swap instant, absolute, and you're standing inside the first terrible minute of a world that has reloaded itself. Firstly, within seconds, Earth becomes unrecognizable. A soundless quake races through the planet, not shaking, but swapping. Oceans and continents trade places like the universe just flipped a switch in an instant. 1.35 billion cubic kilometers of water move, not as waves, but as chaos. The result isn't a tsunami, it's something far worse. The planet becomes one giant splash zone. Entire oceans crash into the new land, while massive sheets of water roll and collide across the globe. Imagine a wall of water hundreds of meters high, smashing into mountains that used to be dry. Rivers turn backward. The atmosphere vibrates with the pressure. This isn't a single wave, it's an endless global pulse of violent sloshing that takes days to calm down. If you're one of the unlucky few who survived the initial swap, you're now standing in a world where physics has turned against you. On what used to be the ocean floor, you've been thrown upward several miles. The air here is too thin to breathe. Pressure drops from normal sea level to the kind you'd find near the top of Mount Everest. Your blood can't carry enough oxygen. Your lungs fill with fluid. Your brain swells, you black out in minutes. It's like being airdropped onto a mountain with no oxygen tank, no warning, and no time to adapt. Meanwhile, anyone who was on land when it happened never stood a chance. They're now buried beneath thousands of meters of ocean, for every 10 meters of depth. The pressure grows by one full atmosphere, at nearly 4 kilometers down. That's 370 times the air pressure of Earth's surface. Submarines are built to withstand that. People aren't. Your chest, skull, and even the air in your blood would collapse instantly. And that's just the human cost. Civilization itself dies before you do. Every continent is underwater power plants, data centers, airports, and entire cities wiped out in one clean sweep. There's no rolling blackout, no chain reaction, just silence. The internet is gone. Satellites lose their ground connections. GPS, phones, every form of digital communication erased. Humanity's networked brain goes dark forever. Those who somehow survive are left in total isolation, scattered across a reshaped planet with no tools, no power, no connection. For the first time in history, there are no governments, no global systems, just small pockets of confused survivors staring at a horizon that used to make sense. The real killer in this scenario isn't the wave, it's the pressure. For one half of humanity, it's instant crushing force. For the other, it's suffocating altitude. The world didn't just flood it inverted. The physics that once protected life now turn it inside out. Civilization ends not in fire or ice, but in the quiet, horrifying moment when land and sea switch places, and everything that once made sense about being human no longer applies. The second sunrise after the swap looks wrong. The sky has turned a color between copper and ash, and the smell salt, rot, and metal hangs everywhere. Earth has gone quiet, but it isn't peace. It's the silence that comes when everything that could die already has. Within days, the oceans that once covered 70% of the planet lie bare. Every creature that once swam beneath the waves plankton, jellyfish, sharks, whales now lies stranded under a burning sun. The great blue whales, those 150-ton lungs of the sea, collapse under their own weight, bones snapping as gravity takes back what buoyancy once spared. Fish dry and split, eyes boiling out of their sockets. Even the smallest microbes in the salt crust start to cook. By the end of the first week, over 99% of marine life is gone, an extinction far worse than the Great Dying 250 million years ago. The land doesn't fare any better. The continents now, new oceans drown every living thing they once supported. Cities, forests, farmlands all buried under miles of salt water. The soil that survives becomes poisoned, saturated with brine and heavy metals, killing roots before they can even sprout. Across what used to be Earth's green belt, dead trees stick out from shallow seas like blackened bones. They call them ghost forests, and now they stretch from pole to pole. But death isn't done. When the seafloor rises to the air for the first time in billions of years, it opens like a coffin. Layers of mud that have never seen sunlight begin to crack, releasing ancient gases and something else. Microbes, viruses, dormant for eons, thaw back to life. They drift upward on the wind, invisible and hungry, forming clouds of pathogens that spread with every gust. Some are harmless relics, others aren't. These are the primordial diseases, locked away since before mammals walked the earth, now searching for new hosts in the bodies of the last surviving humans. You can smell the danger before you see it. The air tastes sharp, metallic. Every breath burns your throat. The few survivors who find each other cling together out of instinct. They share food, comfort, and stories of what used to be. Sociologists once called this the therapeutic community, the brief window after catastrophe when people put aside fear and become selfless. For a few days, maybe weeks. That's true. Strangers share water. Groups form around old rooftops and shipwrecks. Humanity remembers what empathy feels like, but cooperation has a short half-life, soon. The realization sets in there's no rescue coming. There's no outside world anymore. Every government, every city, every line of communication is gone. The sense of unity collapses as hunger rises. The only food left is death itself, billions of tons of decomposing fish, whales, birds, and humans. The survivors face an impossible choice: starve slowly or eat what the ocean left behind. And that's when the new plagues strike. The same ancient microbes awakened from the seabed now infest the carrion that desperate people depend on. One meal can mean infection, fever, madness, collapse. Survival becomes a gamble between starvation and disease, and almost everyone loses. The community fractures into isolated camps. Fear replaces empathy. The few who hoard clean water or canned food become targets. Groups raid each other under blood-orange skies. By the end of the first month, trust is a myth. Civilization is no longer a network, it's a rumor whispered around dying fires. In other disasters, earthquakes, floods, wars, people have always believed help would come. Rescue teams, governments, someone. But in this world, there is no one left to help. There's no radio signal, no satellite overhead, no tomorrow waiting to be rebuilt. When the survivors finally accept that truth, something in the human mind breaks. What remains isn't society, it's instinct. Cooperation dies, and competition takes over. The age of empathy ends, replaced by the oldest law in nature: eat, fight, adapt, or disappear. And above it all, the planet keeps burning quietly, reshaping itself under the weight of its own reversal, an empty, echoing world where even the wind carries the memory of things that used to live. Years after the swap, Earth has hardened into a crust of salt and dust. The sky hangs yellow-gray, rain almost never falls, and when it does, it burns. What's left of humanity now fights for two things: water and shade. Fresh water is the new gold. Rivers no longer flow, most drain into shallow, poisonous seas. Survivors collect rain in anything that can hold it: cracked bottles, old tarps, metal scraps, solar stills. Homemade plastic domes that turn salt water into steam become sacred relics guarded by armed hands. Those living near mountains fare better, drinking from runoff hidden in stone. But even that won't last, as the planet stabilizes. Fresh water disappears into the earth. Food is just as grim. The scavenged cans and old supplies rot within years, forcing people to adapt. The only life thriving now are bugs and reptiles, cockroaches, beetles, crickets. Once pests become livestock, lizards are hunted for meat and skin. Humans learn to farm insects inside metal containers, trading disgust for survival. The smell of roasted crickets becomes the new scent of civilization. Communities form around water and crumble over it. Leadership belongs to the ones who can fix a filter or stitch a wound, not those who inspire hope. Trade exists water for food, tools for protection, but trust is fleeting. Every sunrise risks a raid, and every stranger could mean death. Above it all, the sky turns violent, without oceans to balance heat. Earth swings between extremes, blistering days near 150 degrees Celsius, 65 degrees Celsius, and freezing nights that shatter bone. Storms the size of countries rage across the horizon, and yet, a few survive. They farm, they build, they adapt, they trap fog for drinking water, raise crickets, and huddle beneath solar panels that hum weakly in the dust. Civilization doesn't rebuild, it mutates. The blue planet is gone. In its place stands a dry, flickering world, ruled by salt, silence, and the endless thirst of what used to be humanity. Centuries after the Great Inversion, Earth has settled into its new identity, a planet of dust, heat, and silence. The few oceans that remain are shallow and scattered like scars, with only a third of its former water surface. The planet's climate has broken beyond repair. Rain is rare, clouds thin, and the cycle of evaporation and return, once the heartbeat of the biosphere, barely exists. The air is thicker with carbon dioxide, thinner with oxygen. Earth is no longer blue, it's bronze. The old ocean basins, now vast salt deserts, stretch for thousands of miles. Temperatures climb past 160 degrees in the open flats, while polar regions freeze in endless storms. The missing oceans no longer store or distribute heat, so the planet swings wildly between extremes: fire and frost, drought and flood. Across the centuries, winds sculpt the dried seabeds into endless dunes of white salt, visible even from orbit. The planet's bones are shifting too, with so much mass redistributed: land where sea once was, water where continents sank, the crust bends under new pressure. The ancient seabeds rise slowly, while the old continents, now drowned, continue to sink. The process takes millennia, but the side effects are constant quakes, eruptions, and the violent birth of new volcano chains that redraw coastlines every few generations. Civilization, such as it remains, can never rest on solid ground. Biologically, the world is ruled by the survivors, the disaster species. Insects, reptiles, and scavenging birds dominate the food chain. Cold-blooded life thrives where mammals fail, adapting to heat, drought, and oxygen levels that would choke their ancestors. Humans, too, have changed. Over countless generations, smaller, leaner descendants inherit a world built for endurance, not speed. Their lungs process thin air. Their blood carries oxygen more efficiently. Diets built on bugs, lizards, and roots reshape their metabolism. Culture becomes memory stories of the blue earth passed down as myth. The survivors learn to farm salt-tolerant plants, harvest dew, and worship volcanoes for their warmth. Humanity endures, not as masters, but as witnesses, creatures adapted to a planet that forgot how to breathe. The long equilibrium has arrived, but it's not peace. It's survival in slow motion, an endless truce between life and a world that nearly ended it. After millennia of chaos, Earth finally stabilizes, if you can call it that. The world is quieter now, stripped to its bones. Oceans are memories, forests are myths, and the sky burns with a copper haze. Humanity has shrunk but endured, scattered across the ridges of the old seafloor, living in harmony with a planet that no longer forgives. The species that remain are the ones that learn to bend instead of break cold-blooded. Patient, efficient. Humanity, too, has evolved into something smaller, tougher, almost insect-like in resilience. From orbit, Earth no longer shines blue, it glows faintly brown, a dusty marble adrift in the dark, a reminder that even worlds can die and keep turning. And somewhere beneath that silent sky, the last of our kind still looks up at the stars, wondering if, somewhere else, another planet once made the same mistake.